Okay, this is the second part of our video that goes along with our review for the retest for Unit 3. So you should have already done the first part. Be sure you are listening to the sound. I explain things that I don't always write down as I go through this. You should copy everything I write, plus anything I say that seems important to you. We're still talking about midpoints here, and so I'm going to write my formula down. And again, what order I put my points there doesn't matter because I'm just adding them. And then here's my x and my y and my x and my y. Remember that that's in alphabetical order, just like the alphabet x, y, z, x, y, x, y. So then I just take my x's and put in this one. And I take my two y's and I put in this one. If you're not good with negatives, do it in your calculator. But either you need to put this top part in parentheses or you need to do it in 2 steps. So you can do it as -2 plus 18, parentheses divided by 2. That'll give you the answer. Or, like we usually do it by hand, do the top part first, find that that's 16, and then divide by 2. But you have to choose one of those. If you put it in without the parentheses and try to type the whole thing in, like this, look, it gives us the wrong answer because it's just dividing one part there. So we just got 16 here. We just got 8 here after we did all that on the calculator. Now I can do the same thing with the other one. I'm going to show you with the parentheses again. And you know if you're good at adding and subtracting negatives. If you're not, then get good at doing it with the calculator. Use this calculator and get better at using the calculator. So 5 plus -7, and then divide by 2, and you get -1. So our point here is at 8, 1, 8, -1. And you can always go over here to the side, like I've shown you several times, plot out where each one of these points is, and plot out this point and see if it looks like it's in the middle. Alright, now we have some problems where they tell us the midpoint, and they want us to find the other endpoint. So here, when I'm doing it, I'm using the same formula I did up here, but this time I'm going to plug in the answer, the M and P. I'm going to plug those in from this midpoint here. This is M and P. And I'm going to find one of my other endpoints. So here's my same formula I had up there. I'm plugging this in for M and P. And one of my x's and y's is going to be this. So 2 is x. And 6 is y. Now these are each a little algebra problem. How do I get rid of the 2 on bottom? Well, I multiply by whatever's on bottom. And I'm going to do it on both of these at the same time. Because 2 over 2 is just equal to 1. 2 over 2 is equal to 1. 2 cookies divided by 2 people, you each get 1 cookie. That's why these two things cancel on each of these. I'd still have to multiply it on the other side of the equal sign. Remember, I have to do it on both sides. So I have 20 equals 2 plus x minus 2 on both sides, and I get x is 18. Do the same thing here. 2 times 17 is 34. 6 plus y minus the 6 on both sides, and we get y is 28. Once again, you can draw out a little graph over here, and even roughly do 2, 6, well that's maybe there, 10, 17, you can do all your little marks, 10, 17 would be here. And then this number is much bigger, 18 and 26 would be over there. And that would put it in the middle. Alright, the next one is just like the one we just did. Pause the video and see if you can do it with the same formula. So your first step should have been to copy the same formula we had up here, down here. The midpoint is told to be right here, so that's what's going in for my answers for M and P. Then I'm going to use this other endpoint to plug those in for x and y. And then I'm going to finish writing my formulas down, and I'm going to solve for the missing variables. So I finished copying them down from up there. And then to get rid of this 2 on bottom, I multiplied both sides times 2, and 2 over 2 is equal to 1. Remember, I just said that over here. So these cancel out, leaving me with -6 equals 9 plus x, and -10 equals 10 plus y. Subtract the 10 from both sides, subtract the 9 from both sides, and I get -15 equals x. That's this one is -15 equals x. And then on the other side, these two 10s cancel. I have negative 10 and negative 10 gives me negative 20 equals y. There's my point. If I wanted to put it in a point form, it would be negative 15 and negative 20, like that. Okay, now we're going to use the distance formula. Remember what it is. It's got the big square root. x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Remember, we're just trying to get the x's and the y's in the right place. So my two x's are 4 and 1, so those need to go here. And remember, we talked about why this order doesn't even matter. Then the y's, we have negative 6 and negative 10. What does matter is that we don't lose any of our negatives and we don't mess our negatives up. Write them down very carefully. Now, if you're not good at negatives and positives, then do this by hand. Then don't do this by hand. Do it with your calculator. Remember, I told you don't type in the square root. Just type in the part underneath and type it in just like it looks there. 4 minus 1 parentheses squared plus negative 6 minus negative 10 parentheses squared, and hit enter. What I get is 25, but remember this is still under the square root because I didn't push the square root sign. Every time you get a square root, you should test it to see second. I'm using second in my square root sign. There we go. And then I'm going to type in the 25 to see what I get. If I get a nice even number like this one, the square root of 25 is 5, I just write that down and I'm done with that answer. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing on the next one. Write down your distance formula. Pause and write this down because I'm going to keep going. Get your x's and y's in the right places. These are my x's. Negative 3 minus 1 squared plus, these are my y's, 2 and negative 2. And then once again, type that in your calculator, just the part underneath the square root. So, type it in and I get the square root of 32. Always check to see if that's a correct square root. Oh look, this one gives us a big long decimal. We're never going to leave it as a decimal. So this is where we have to do the factor tree. So take 32 and let's see if it'll divide by 2. Oh look, it does. So I write down 2 and 16. Then I can do 16 and I can say, well, does that divide by 2? Yes, it does. 2 and 8. Does that divide by 2? At some point you're going to be able to do it in your head, and if not, keep using your calculator and checking it each time. Then, circle the pairs. Pairs are twos, two things that are the same, not 3 of them, just 2 of them. Think a pair of socks is 2 of them. Every time I make a circle, that goes on the outside. This is outside. This is inside. If it's a circled one, it goes on the outside. So this one has a 2 on the outside, and this one has a 2 on the outside. And this guy has no friends, so he has to stay inside. He can't go outside. Then, whatever's on the outside, I multiply those together, and anything on the inside, I multiply together, but there's just one thing there. So there's the answer to that one. And finally, our last one, we're going to do the same exact thing, write the distance formula. Pause and rewind if I didn't give you enough time to write. Here's my x's and y's. My two x's are negative 5 minus 1, and my y's are negative 1 minus 4 squared. Yep, minus 4. And then I'm going to put it in my calculator. Not the square root part, just the part underneath with the parentheses, negative 5 minus 1 squared plus hit enter, and I get 61. Square root of 61. Well, will that factor at all? It's not going to be 2, maybe 3. Nope. 61, maybe 7. Nope, nothing goes in there even. So if nothing goes in there, that's just my answer, and I just stop right there.